All right, we welcome in our guest for today, Delegate Eric Zehr. He represents the Campbell County. Your district is pretty big, isn't it?
It's most of Campbell, southern Bedford, and a little bit of Pittsylvania County.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot. It takes me an hour and a half to get from one end to the other.
Oh, well.
Well, thank you for coming back. We figured with all the commotion that's going on in Richmond, it's good to get the perspective of the person that's in the middle of all that chaos.
Well, it's good to be back here. And yeah, there has been a little bit of, it felt like chaos, but maybe organized chaos, you might say, when you've got a different situation this year. The last 2 years that I was there, the Republicans, I'm a Republican, we were in a very slim minority. We had just one seat short. This year, we were 13 seats down.
Wow.
Made a big difference. There was nothing that Republican was going to get through that the Democrats didn't want to have get through. So it was frustrating at times, but I also learned how to work around it, and we got a little bit done.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably just to dive in.
Sure.
I mean, obviously, the election did not go our way. I would say that. And so you kind of, I think for most people, you kind of knew what was coming, kind of the way the election went. But I don't know that we expected it to go this quickly, I think.
Yeah, historically, when Republican is in the White House, you're going to lose seats in the state level.
Okay.
We didn't expect the blue wave that happened this year at the
Okay.
state level. We lost seats that we should have held. We never expected to lose, and but the good news is we are starting to build back already. We had a special election just 2 weeks ago over in the 98th district. That's on the eastern shore, and the Republican candidate over there won by a margin unanticipated. He won that district by even more of a percentage than Trump did.
Oh,
so
that's good.
It indicates the level of angst in the voters about what's going on at the state level. That voters are seeing what the Democrats are pushing through, and they're saying, we need to turn course here."
Yeah, I think I'm confused on the biggest confusion for me was how anybody thought that by electing Spanberger, you're going to somehow end up with a moderate Democrat. I mean, I'm not sure where anybody thought that was actually going to happen.
And even let's just say that Spanberger was a moderate, which she is not. But let's just say that she was. There really isn't a choice for Democrats. They have to push through with the legislation that their people put them in there to push through, that they presented the last 2 years when they knew it was safe to present because they knew that Governor Youngkin would veto it. Mm-hmm. Well, this year, they've got the House, they've got the Senate, they've got the governor's mansion. There's nothing to stop. There's no excuse. So they had to push through with things that I think even they were a little bit embarrassed.
Yeah.
Some California Democrats are blushing at some of what went through in Virginia this year.
That's what it feels like.
Well, let's talk about some of them. So the question I just had Senate Bill 322, which basically I think joins other states in being able to eventually get to a popular vote.
Okay.
Is that something that, I mean, do you see all of these bills, I guess?
Yeah, every one of them came through. Now, some of them could have gone through the Senate, and I would have not seen them on the House side. But that one I think it had what we call a cognate over in the House side. So, yes, that one came through. I was a definite no on that because I've seen what happens, with the popular vote. Our founders set us up as a republic for a reason.
Yes.
And when you bypass that reason, sometimes reason doesn't prevail, and you get people elected that shouldn't be elected.
Mm-hmm. So one of the questions I have had about that is we're joining other states. And by joining other states, eventually, I think that would allow the national election to basically change over to a popular vote, right? But you have to have so many states join that. So my question is, when Republicans gain back control, is that easily undone?
That part, probably not. Because once you join other states and you form some sort of coalition, you've got, laws regulating that coalition, that union, it's going to be hard to pull out. Mm-hmm. Not impossible, because we have to exert Virginia's sovereignty too.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well, I hope it is. One of the frustrations I feel like, sort of like Spanberger, what you guys have alluded to, she sort of ran the Biden campaign of being in the basement, had maybe a couple issues that has come out that they've passed that she campaigned on. But so much of this stuff, there's not a single chance that they campaigned on it. And then when they got the chance, it was the blue rolls over the red and it doesn't matter what happens. And we just don't seem to ever govern that way. The red never seems to roll over the blue like they do us. And man, they just took the opportunity and just went after it.
And Trent, you were mentioning it, what they're doing doesn't line up with what they campaigned on, or I think you said it very nicely that I don't think they would have campaigned on this. What they're doing is exactly the opposite of what they campaigned on. We all campaigned on kitchen table issues, especially affordability. August, September, October, November, we're all out there campaigning on we're going to make life more affordable for Virginians. Literally 6 weeks later, Democrats are coming in with 50 plus new taxes.
Oh my Lord.
So in these bills don't just spontaneously generate.
Yeah.
So while they were campaigning on affordability, they're already planning these tax hikes. So
And come in with a surplus.
we had a surplus. That's going to be that's gone.
Yeah.
And we're looking. I say we as a collective. But this is a Democrat-driven legislature are looking at how do we generate more money to pay for all these new programs and these things that they want to put through. But it's not just the taxes that we see up front. It's what I call the stealth taxes. It's the money that's coming out of our pockets that we don't know about. They're going to be able to say, we didn't add new tax. So some of those taxes will probably get put into the budget. So it'll be snuck in there. We won't see it. But there's other things like collective bargaining, there's paid family leave, there's the rejoining of the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. There's all these things that are going to be taking money out of our pockets in ways that aren't direct taxes, but they still move their ideology forward.
Yep, exactly the game plan.
Let's talk about weapons. That's a big topic for me. So what's the bill that's, can you kind of give us brief details of actually what was passed that's going to hinder our ability with the Second Amendment?
So the game plan here is what's called a patchwork. So they did not come at it with, we are just going to do away with the Second Amendment, but they came at it with a little bill here and a little bill there, a little infringement over here, and then the plan will be to build on those rather than just going directly, which, there would be such a backlash if they just directly said, we are just going to outright ban guns. But, some of them, for example, I remember giving a speech on the floor about how one of these bills, you can have an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old. He's off in the military. He's carrying an M4 to defend us. But when he comes home, we're not going to let him buy a pistol to defend himself at home. Because apparently to the Democrats, if you're under 21, you're too immature to have a weapon.
Wow.
That was one of them. Another one, they started out, they wanted to make any magazine that holds more than 10 rounds. They wanted to classify that as an assault weapon or an assault weapon. And so, of course, we gave a lot of grief about that. And the public outcry was what turned them. And they eventually modified it. So now it's a 15 round. You can't buy anything greater than 15 rounds in Virginia after July 1. You can't bring it in. You can't go to your family and take one.
So I'm just for my own reasons here. So, I mean, I've got a 9mm that holds 20 rounds. So you are a criminal, Brian. So, I mean, with this bill, I'm supposed to get rid of those clips or?
So if I'm understanding correctly, if you've got it right now, you can have it.
Okay.
But don't you dare buy it after or bring it into the state after July 1.
Yeah. And there's the question whether or not you can sell it to your kids or give it to your kids.
Yeah. Can it be passed down? There was a lot of questions around that one. A lot of questions around law enforcement. Historically, law enforcement retires, they get to keep their weapon. Well, okay, now is that weapon going to be illegal? Is it illegal for law enforcement to keep that?
No.
Will
a lot of these end up in court?
I think so. So, of all places, D.C. I'm talking Washington, D.C. District of Columbia. I think it was a circuit court recently ruled that they couldn't ban magazines based on capacity because the logic was, well, wait a minute, if you can arbitrarily say no more than 10 rounds, why can't you arbitrarily say no more than 2 rounds.
Yep.
And if you can say no more than 2 rounds, well, why can't you arbitrarily say, well, no rounds, just you can have 1 in the chamber? Well, and a judge, I think, went this far. He says, wait a minute. So if you can say we can just have 1 in the chamber and this is all arbitrary, well, we'll go back to muskets, because at the time of the Second Amendment, they were using muskets.
Rational.
And so,
That's a
you
rational.
can have a musket and
Yeah.
it's not infringing.
So yeah, I'm hoping, and I don't know where that's. I'm assuming the NRA organizations like that are the ones that are fighting these things.
Yeah, NRDA or NRA, VCDL, they're on the forefront. They are picking these bills apart. They're helping to formulate arguments. They're there testifying on each one of these bills. And I sit on the firearms subcommittee, so I get to see these bills firsthand as they come through. And VCDL and NRA there every time, fighting for what we believe in and what
Sure. Wow.
what our founders gave us. So it's a fight.
Yeah.
And it was sad. I remember one committee, we sat there for 3.5 hours listening to testimony after testimony about why we should ban guns, and just frustrating.
What bothers me the most, because Trent owns a cabin in Highland County, and when you're driving out there, you see Creed signs, right? And you think about it, there's no way. I mean, I've met these people. There's no way you're voting for a person that's going to take away your right to own guns. Yet they do it. And I can't figure out why that is not resonating with.
But I think part of it is they're smart. It's incrementalism.
That's
it's a
right.
little bit here, it's a little bit there, you get people used to the next level before you go higher,
Yeah.
before you reach for that next takeaway.
Definitely a game plan. And speaking of that game plan, and I would, before the show, we talked just a little bit here, and I'd like to give you a chance to talk about this. So I think the constitutional amendments that we're going to get to vote for in November are 3 pretty strong liberal stances on things, which is obviously to encourage the base to come in November so that they can also win the House. And now we have this other vote that we're getting ready to do. Does that mean at the federal level we're going to be down 11-1, or are we still going to be 6-5? That's how important the April vote is. But in the constitutional amendments that we're going to vote in November, one of them is reproductive rights, and I wanted to give you a chance to talk about that one, if you could.
Yeah, that sounds really nice at the title there, doesn't it?
Yes, exactly.
Reproductive rights. Everybody wants rights.
Another game plan.
But I chastised Democrats on the floor for this one. 3 years in a row, I have asked for a report. I've asked for a study of what really will this amendment do, because voters don't know, and voters are going to go into that poll November. They're going to read the first line. They're going to get the little cheat sheet from the outside for the Dems saying, "Hey, you want reproductive rights? Okay, just go vote yes on this one." But people don't realize that this would make Virginia the most radical state in the union when it comes to abortion. But it doesn't stop there. It would make Virginia more radical than any industrialized nation.
Wow.
One of my fellow delegates did a study of 148 other countries. He could not come up with another country that had a more radical abortion laws. But the thing that irks me the most about this one is that the language that voters will see is very much like what we see going on this April 21 gerrymandering, where it says one thing in the referendum, but in the text of the bill, it's very different. So with the abortion amendment, it references doctors and nurses, that doctors and nurses should have immunity. So they botch an abortion, they hurt somebody, whatever, should the doctor or nurse have immunity. But in the text of the bill, it says any individual. Literally says any individual. So if you've got somebody who's, it could be a midwife, we would hope it would at least be a midwife. Maybe it's the plumber, mechanic, uncle. Maybe it's somebody trying to cover their tracks and they hurt a girl. There's immunity, just
Wow.
blanket immunity. There's no reporting requirements. So your daughter can be sent through a clinic and you'll never know unless something goes wrong and now we start racking up medical bills and they're going to come after you for the payment. It is, as I said also on the floor, this is a sex trafficker's dream because you can run these gals through the clinics. Nobody has to know.
Wow.
Drop them at the front door, pick them up at the back, and keep going.
Wow. That's what it's almost evil. I mean,
Yeah.
and the language that they use, like we talked about in the voting one that we're getting ready to do on April 21st, to say that the right to vote or to make fair elections. Okay, you wrote those words that way, but you literally are cutting off half the state from being able to be represented. That's really what the story is, but that's not what gets out there.
Yep.
In fact, they got Obama out there campaigning how fair it is. Now it's just the strategy that they use is sickening. It just is horrible.
What you're talking about right there, we'd have 46% of Virginia's population would be represented by 9% of the guys in Congress.
That's right.
That would make us more disproportionate than any other state in the union, including California and New York.
Wow.
One other thing I didn't mention
Sure.
on that abortion amendment is reproductive rights is very open-ended. It's not defined. So that is going to cover everything from transgenderism to the guy that doesn't want her to have the baby, but she has the baby. Now, is she infringing on his reproductive rights? It's absurd how open-ended and vague this thing is.
Well, did they pass anything on climate? I'm just wondering what's coming at us with climate and DEI.
Yeah, and you're going to pay for it. So we got back into RGGI, the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, that ties us to California bureaucrats telling us what to do for our electric. One estimate I heard is going to add about $7 to every electric bill. So you times that times 12, it's starting to add up.
Oh yeah, that's just the beginning.
And it's all about this push for wind and solar. Wind and solar is great, but we can't depend on them. This cold snap we had this winter, wind was adding 0.
Exactly.
And solar a little bit during the day until we got that snow. Yeah,
Right.
Solar panels don't produce a whole lot when they're covered with snow.
That's right.
And so what's absurd, what makes this the most absurd, though, is we're importing more electricity than really any other state in our region. So while we're banning production here in Virginia, we're importing electricity from West Virginia and Ohio and other places where they're making it with coal.
Yeah, of course.
So
Yeah.
what's the point, folks?
It's backwards.
We're just driving the cost up for Virginians, and we're not even getting the carbon freedom here.
Yeah, especially when you think that West Virginia and Ohio are upgradient from us. So whatever gas house emissions are coming right back over top of us when you think about it. So there's some other things that I had in here. And the constitutional amendments that we'll be voting for, you had mentioned the reproductive rights. There's also voting for felons. Allowing felons to vote is one of them. And then marriage equality. I had not known this, but the state of Virginia has had a long-standing ban on same-sex marriage. And so that will allow us to vote that says we can lift that ban on same-sex marriage. I didn't know we had
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, that's going to be in the constitutional amendment. So you can hear those three subjects, and you know the drove of people that are going to go vote in a midterm election. So if we don't win in April, we're going to be in some real trouble.
And on that marriage amendment, what people aren't talking about is what it's going to do to pastors. So you've got pastors who are morally opposed to same-sex marriage, and they're going to be forced. They're going to be in a tight spot. There's no exclusion for them.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's one of the tough ones. And then, we all want people to be able to get their life back together and be able to vote. But one of the things there is you got somebody who's killed somebody else. That somebody else isn't going to get their voting rights back.
That's right.
That's right.
So, yeah.
Well, before you go, is there any good news you can bring?
Well, we do have cannabis markets we can go buy dope and just feel okay for the whole thing.
Is there any positive news coming out of Richmond?
Lots of positive news.
Okay,
so one of the positives is that people are paying attention like they never have before. And we mentioned this before we went on the air, that legacy media is not the only source anymore. Like, you guys are getting news out in ways that others. I've been, I'm an old guy, and I've learned how to use Facebook and how to put reels out. And so we've seen people engaging like never before.
Good.
Here's an example of how that works. So last year, Democrats brought anti-homeschooling bills. and we were trying to really make life rough for homeschooling. This year they targeted private schools. HB 359 in particular was a big concern. Well, the people that turned up by email, by phone call, by text message, showing up in Richmond, and we were able to get that bill squashed.
Oh, wow.
So
Wonderful.
we protected private schooling.
Thank Lord.
And again, just being able to message and to get the news out, to let people know, hey, here's what the situation is. We voted these Democrats in. Here's what's going on, and people are responding, and they're recognizing we need to make a change here pretty quick.
I think that's what happened in the VMI case too. That was big news in January when it started. Is VMI losing their governance of themselves to Virginia Union or Virginia State. And without social media and the rallying of the whole troops across state, I don't think we would have squashed that. But
yeah, a lot. I got more emails about that one than anything else this year.
Trent, how many emails did you send?
No, I didn't. I'm a little frustrated with VMI, and they've just let the whole woke agenda change everything about the school, and I'm getting so frustrated. And sometimes you get what you earn. They're never happy. Every time you give them something, they take more. Oh, yeah. And they take more, and they take more. So you didn't really make them happy when you made all those other decisions. In fact, you alienated us, the people that went there, and now you want help to try to have your own governance. I really have a hard time right now with them. So, Yep.
Well, thank you again for taking the time out to let us know what's going on in Richmond. We know you're busy, and we do appreciate you coming by.
It's a pleasure, and I appreciate the opportunity to let folks know what's going on. That's what this game is going to be all about, is letting people know what's happening in Richmond so they can vote knowledgeably.
All right, so we definitely know. We're voting no in April.
No, and no.
I just did yesterday. You can vote early, so the precinct in Bedford, by the way, has changed locations. If you don't know, if you're going to vote early, it's not in front of the BRWA or the sheriff's office. It's at the Bedford County Nursing Home. You got to go behind there to Parks and Rec, and you vote early behind the nursing home.
Good information.
Yep.
Well, thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.